Welcome to Dry Arabia, and today spawning in the west side of the map, we've got non-boiling oil playing in blue as the Malians, aka Vortix, and his opponent spawning in on the east side of the map. Guides are toxic in yellow, playing as the Rus, and also known as beastyqt. So it's going to be the Malians for Vortix and the Rus for beastyqt. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dry Arabia and this high-level casted game. Well, hopefully the casted game is actually high level, but the players are high level. That's it for sure. And well, the interesting civilization matchup because the Rus at the moment are probably hailed as essentially the best civilization on most maps. I mean, they could do it all. They've got really good water. They've got the fishing ships that work incredibly well, but of course that's not an issue on Dry Arabia. They've got plenty of other bonuses to be had on this map. The Malians have been very strong for a long time, but they have been nerfed recently with the Warrior Scout receiving some nerfs, so they're not as good as they once used to be, but they have a couple of tricks up their sleeves. Recently, actually, the cow boom has been back in action. The Farimba garrison used to be an option, a fast castle into Farimba garrison, but it looks like at the moment that cow booming has been a really good option for them. And as well, the deer packs have to consider that because they can often go for professional scouts there, the Malians. Speaking of deer pack, well, that's something that Beastie will want to try and contest and get the bounty. A lot of the deers have already been taken. There's still one more pack here. They're both actually going to go for this as well. And the reason why I'm excited about this matchup is because, well, Beastie is probably hailed as one of the best macro players. And I think actually, to be honest, Vortix is probably one of the most, one of the most successful micro players. And it'd be interesting to see if that really bears much of an impact in this game, as we see like Vortix are really trying to deny a lot of the bounty. Decent amount is being denied. 3 more deer to fight over. One has got half health, does take that out. Gonna contest for this last one, it seems. I wonder who gets it. Well, I was gonna go for this one. I think I'm gonna share one each here. I think Vortix just takes this one, yeah, and he goes on his way. You see the pit mine has been placed there quite nice and early, as you'd expect from the Malians, getting that free gold, and going to go for the Mansa Quarry today, which is an interesting choice because the Saharan Trade Network can be an option to try and protect the early gold vein, especially because the Rus can often open up with a stable and a singular knight. The Kremlin is the landmark of choice for Beastie. No real surprises there, and it's a really good spot between the gold and the wood line. That's often what you want to protect, the wood line and the gold. I wouldn't be surprised to see the villagers to go outside here and place a lumber camp once the Kremlin is up and running. Got 5 villagers building that landmark, and the 2 town centre play for the Rus has been very, very strong recently, especially because it's very difficult to punish, primarily because of the fact that the Kremlin can activate the Kremlin Gremlins. Now, that unit is something to be talked about. It's a bit of a broken unit, in my opinion anyway. I've seen a lot of games where it can just change things very drastically, and it just feels very unnatural just to be able to summon a bunch of units very, very quickly, very, very cheaply, and it can buy you a lot of time. We'll see if it's much of an impact in this game. Could potentially be. It usually is an impact in most games, to be honest with the Rus. As we do see villagers going out to stone for Beastie, expected to get to that second town centre. And, well, working from there, it'd be interesting to see where he places that second town centre, usually on deer or maybe a boar if it's close by. Maybe he goes up north here because there's berries and deer. It's quite far away though from his main town centre. This is further forward. I suspect that won't be the place because it's just kind of inviting pressure. I wouldn't be surprised to see the town centre up north, but we'll have to see. It's a little bit far away, you see, so we'll have to keep an eye on what beastyqt decides to do about that. Got the early meal coming in for the Malians expected because of course they convert their cows, well, they convert the gold into cows, which gives them food, of course. Relatively good conversion because these guys cost 90 gold and they give about 500 food. So certainly a nice interchange of resources there. It does look like it's going to be a village pressure here for Vortix because he's only got 1 villager on gold. You'd expect them to go for more villagers on gold if they go for a fast castle into Farimba, that kind of thing. As you can see, plenty of villagers on wood, so it's going to be dropping down a production building before too long. And it's going to open up with a stable. Looks like beastyqt and the Rus is going to go straight for a second town centre rather than a stable opening. Might be plonking it down here actually. Be really safe and secure, but usually it would be nice to get a food resource. So, I mean, it could be a good option to go there. We'll see. We'll see. But it's going to wood now, of course. Needs a bit more wood. And this is a nice transition. Like playing the Rus, if you play them yourselves and looking for some tips, it's quite nice to have that early stone income heavily until you've got the Kremlin actually up and running, because the Kremlin actually boosts the lumber camp by gathering more wood. So it's nice to save the wood cutting for later when you get a bit of return on it. So do you see double broadaxe coming in as well? So the wood income is going to be skyrocketing very quickly. And villagers are on the way for that second town centre. And it looks like maybe they're heading north. Has he placed the foundation just yet? Not quite. Back at home, Vortix continuing with the cows production. It does have that stable producing the software, I think. It just got the warrior scout upgrade, I believe. So actually, maybe not software, it's going to go for the warrior scouts. And that is indeed the place. You know, it's kind of understandable. There's no real pressure at this stage. 6 minutes in. And so it's going to go for the deer and the berries in a really nice spot. There's actually back gold here as well. So that's a really good map kind of control of these resources. Quite a bit of a bridge to gap between the main town centre and the secondary town centre, but the mobility of the Rus allows that to happen. You know, the knights can really get their movement on and get across the map where they need to be. And it will be a stable there for the Rus. Professional scouts in action. And that explains the kind of lack of aggression, I suppose, in one way that the malians have been having in this particular match. And it's because he's getting the free food that's on the map. It's actually quite strong when you think about it. A lot of food to be gathered. And I think it's actually started taking this deer carcass, which was actually the closest to beastie. So that's a nice move, nice touch to go for there first. He wants to get those in and deny that for the Rus. Now the other kind of major food source to be considering is the boar. There's one in the north and there's one in the south. That's something that beastie could look to target, if not for the food, at least for the bounty. Could be something that the Malians need to try and defend and kind of challenge. It's going to be a barrack, so I should expect to see some Donsos here for Vortix. Looks like it's going to be Sofa and Donsos, with the early warrior scouts obviously doing what they need to do. Going to be a little bit of micro action here. Needs to get those deer carcasses. 3 scouts versus 3, pulling away the weak ones. And we talked about how Vortix is probably one of the best micro players in the world. We'll see how he does here, because there is an early knight here now. He's going to back away. He might sacrifice one warrior scout, but he might be able to save this, because they're actually faster than any of the other units. Look at that. Holy smokes. Gets away with 7 HP. He does back off and saves that. Keeps it alive for now. And now we'll be able to back and retreat off to the safety of his capital town centre, more or less, I suspect. A couple of villagers on gold. Not all that many. About 4 so far. But getting plenty of food back underneath the town centre with the deer pack. Could be a double archery range, as you'd expect for the Rus, because they do have such a strong wood economy. The Kremlin boosting up the lumber camp, but then also getting that early double broadaxe. Wood income going to be looking very, very nice. And we can actually compare it at the moment. We've got 9 villagers there for beastie. Actually, it's actually got less of a wood income. I think it's just playing catch up because it's just transitioned more onto wood just now, I suspect. The Donsos looking to protect the villagers in gold. The threat of the early knights always loom. Now the issue for this matchup really is that the Malians kind of have to pile on some pressure. There's got to be a timing attack, because the Rus going for a second town centre very kind of easily, freely. It does mean the economy for beastie will be a lot stronger, already 6 villagers ahead. And that's something the Malians have to contend with. Now, considering the passive income you can get from the pit mine, which is quite nice, it's kind of counteracted by the passive income you get from the hunting cabins that the Rus get. So it's something that, well, it needs to be considered for the Malians. Now, it is actually going to be from a garrison, which kind of makes sense, because, of course, if you're going professional scouts, food isn't really an issue, so cow boom isn't really needed. 1 villager does get sniped, and a second. So good pick off there for beastie. 10 villagers ahead because of that. And the Firma garrison's going to be needed. Vortix is going to have to do some damage himself very quickly, you feel. Just before this game gets out of hand. I can see actually beastie keeping up units here on the north of this deer pack just to protect and prevent those scouts getting them in. We'll see how successful he is with that. The Firma garrison has been built. Quite a lot of villagers were used to do that. And it's going to go straight to gold, of course, because that's what these units cost. A couple of archers going to just poke and prod against some of the warrior scouts on the retreat. But pretty quiet at this point, and it's going to favour the Rus because they've got that second town centre. 12 villager lead. But I think things might look to start to change soon once the Fimbra garrison does get online. Going to be getting a mosque as well, because he does have that timing on getting the relics, being the only player in the castle age. But, well, the income looking so strong here for Beastie. Look at that, 1,000 food per minute coming in. I suspect he won't be too far off from the castle age himself. A couple of javelin throwers added into the mix to counteract the archers. Mosque a bit delayed. That's actually really big, because Beastie's been able to deny the mosque going up straight away, and it means that, well, the relics will be more delayed to be able to contest them a little bit more. beastyqt does actually have a bit of map presence and control here, keeping vortix back at home, but that probably will change once the upgrades come in. The veteran javelin throwers, the hardened donzos turn into veteran donzos. So it'd be castle age versus feudal age in terms of units, but the economy looking so strong here for the Rus, and it's really what they do really well. It's not just the fact that he's got 2 town centres, it's also that the wood income is really strong. He's got the early upgrades with the wheelbarrow. He's even got a horticulture as well. Looking very nice. Bit of an engagement here in the south. That's something that, well, vortix will clear up quite easily. Still deer carcasses there, not picked up. Does have a couple of warrior scouts on the field, so could potentially look to get those. And transitioning, getting the stables up for the Sofa, I suspect. It's one of the units that can't be produced from the Fimbra garrison. And yeah, Beastie just keeping his army active, taking some houses down as he can and trying to snipe a villager or two. Doesn't quite manage it, lots of donzos are there. Military numbers 26 to 16. It's looking healthy for vortix, but I think he needs to push quickly. There's something that's concerning about this match, because for vortix, he's got a timing window, he's got a pressure before things get out of hand, because the Rus now are going to the castle age, and the issue for the malians is when they do try and be aggressive and push in, well, look at this, 8 tickets means that we'll be able to get 16 Kremlin gremlins, 16 militia, and that's going to be a problem, because that buys beastyqt more time to try and stabilize. And look at this, he's getting the walls up, protecting the economy, got a nice berry patch, nice food income going to be coming in there with the high trade house. And I like this touch, the fact the high trade house is actually next to the berries, because not only is it going to give him deer pack, he's going to be able to drop off the food gathered from the berries at the high trade house. But pretty passive actually as this game goes, but I think things will heat up. Looks like it's going to be one big battle or two that really defines this game, and I think now's the time, because, well, when you age up, that's when you're most vulnerable. I think really at this point vortix will want to pressure, because he won't want these units to be upgraded to castle age units. Probably wants to take a fight as early as he can. I just wonder whether a wall here would do a lot of wonders here for malians and vortix, just to prevent this entry into the base. It's actually kind of annoying for him, I suspect, at this point. It means that this gold is always under threat as well, because of the movement speed of these knights. But they might need to get back home. We might keep them here as well, though. If he can feel confident about defending himself, might keep this here to get a counter raid. The army is heading forward now for malians, and vortix wants to get in there before the upgrades come in, but it looks like it's going to be too late. The veterancy of the archers will come in at least. I'm not sure if the veterancy of the knights did come in. I suspect they did. We'll need to just click on one just to double check. And it is indeed the case. It is castle age units versus castle age units now. So vortix can head in. It's very far behind on economy. Obviously courtesy because of the 2 town centre. And I think, yeah, Beastie does keep his army here. He's just going to keep being annoying. Some static defences could work quite nicely in his favour here, vortix, if he decides to do so. But he's going to charge in with the veteran Sofa and a couple of warrior scouts and the donzos and javelin throwers. He's got everything you could kind of make here as the malians. Only thing that remains is the Mustafadi warriors. Villagers coming in. They're going to get body blocked. I think he's trying to garrison inside the town centre. They get body blocked, and a lot of them do go down. Well, I say that. Only 4 so far. But that number is rising. And this is a good bit of aggression. A lot of idle time being caused, but the Kremlin is causing problems. Has still got 8 tickets, so didn't use them all, at least. Heading out to the secondary gold, and I think at this point it really does make sense to wall up, but we shall see if that's something that vortix does. You know, wood investment is precious he'll want to invest the wood into units at this point, because he is on a timing window. To be fair, walls in that position might not help him as much as he needs, because he needs to pile on the pressure, he needs to do damage. Speaking of damage, Donsos do get involved. They are pretty outnumbered though, the knights will take care of that. We'll be suffering some casualties, but not a lot. That's a good cleanup there for Beastie. That's a concern for Vortix, he needs more units here, needs it fast. Does have some more Donsos, the villager needs to get out of there. She loses her life. The Donsos there can engage, it's something that Beastie will want to pull out from in the middle of the base. The main town centre. He's going to try and torch down the main town centre. This guy has 7,000 HP, I'm not sure he's going to manage it. Not without loss. Here we go. Gremlins, 18 of them. That's going to push this back. Vortix cannot take this fight. He has to back off. Now these guys do have an expiry time. 55 seconds. I think Vortix is diving in too much here. He needs to back away. These Gremlins will buy beastyqt at least a minute to try and stabilize, get units out. And this is what we talked about at the beginning part of the cast. How there's such a strong unit. Not because of necessarily the damage it does, but the way it changes the game and the tempo. Tempo was with the Malians and Vortix, but it's just all pushed back, and all the engagements here that Beastie gets is just, it's so strong with the militia. I think Vortix has to just back off and just wait for them to expire. Those units, he needs to prevent them from doing any more damage. Does have one sacred site. In terms of relics, 2 have been brought in by Vortix. A second is coming in for the Rus, so that timing of the early fast castle, the castle age timing, doesn't help him all that much, and again, is great value for these militia. Something Vortix needs to get away from. Once the militia do go down though, could have a chance to be more aggressive. Couple of militia heading northwards now, that's surprising. Where are they off to? Not entirely sure. Maybe to the boar? Well, that's a sneaky bit of boar play there by the Rus. We talked about how that's important for the Rus. Looks like, has he taken the one in the south as well? I think he is, isn't he? Yeah, he is. He's got an outpost as well. Playing this very, very nicely here, Beastie. Especially with the economy. And the trouble for the Malians of Vortix is doing pressure and killing his opponent is proving to be very difficult. Knights still dancing around the back of the base. Always keeping active with those. Getting the sacred site in the north. Nice bit of gold trickle will be coming in. I think the villagers here died. Well, they've been pulled away. Looks like the ball's been taken, so I think those villagers just got pulled away. Yeah, there they are. To be fair, they were pushed away. A single warrior scout. Again, the knights being really harassing. Villagers on berries tonight in the south. Sacred site being contested. But slowly but surely, this game I think is coming to a close because it's going to end one way or another. And it's going to come down to this push, whether this push is successful or not. Does get a couple of villagers, but with the mangonel there, that could be huge, taking out the infantry, the Donso and the javelin throws. The mangonel is going to be crucial. And I wonder whether he has more tickets. He does. He's got 6 more militia that could come out. The mangonel pushes his back, and it's an interesting game of Age of Empires 4, how just some key mechanics just delays the push for Vortix. It makes the killer blow very difficult because of the fact that the militia pushed them away. It bought beastyqt a lot of time for that economy to really come into play. And there's got relics in behind this, and the mangonel is the secondary way to push this back. Is really Vortix doesn't want to attack that if he can. The trouble is, giving Beastie even more time might get even another mangonel or 2. So it's going to go for the secondary TC at the top. I don't think that's much of a problem at this point. I think Beastie just gives this up. Got a lot of exposed villagers, needs to be careful about those. It does pull them away, keeps them to safety, because he, well, you know, don't want to lose that many villagers. Loses the second down centre, but I think at this point it doesn't really matter. There's so many villagers ahead. Knights get engaged with the Donsos, not a favourable fight for them, does back off, does lose a knight or 2 though. Strong push, almost double the amount of army for Vortix. But I just feel like the game is slipping out of his grasp. He needs to do a decisive killer blow, we feel, before this economy really saves Beastie. And look at this, he's actually mining stone. Maybe looking to get a keep. If he gets a defensive keep, it's probably going to be curtains. Gremlin does have 4 tickets. Here's the engagement. Knights on the front lines, crossbows on the back line with the mangonel as well. He needs to hold on. Does have 3 relics as well. Beastie's economy incredibly strong. Is actually being aggressive on the gold vein as well. Keeping some of the units back. And villagers are being stopped from mining. Keeps them alive. Keeps them moving. We need to get the sacred site in the south. But look at that, a keep there as well. That's going to deny that sacred site. It's a really strong keep actually. I mean, to be fair, getting the keep back at home might have been a better option, but he's going to get that sacred site control guess he feels confident about being able to defend this, which is kind of interesting because there are a lot of units. Mangonel on the back line. Will there be sniped? He's got a line of crossbows in front of him. Suffer in front. Another Mangonel, secondary Mangonel. That could just be what wins the fight. A lot of the knights are going down, though. A lot of infantry there for vortix. 49 military to 32. Will he be able to keep the Mangonel alive? I think if he keeps the secondary Mangonel alive here, that could be a good way to stay in the game. The Kremlin in the back line as well, there just to protect. Does have a couple of tickets, 5 tickets, that's 10 of those militia that could come out to defend. And the army is starting to dwindle here for the Malians. That is a concern because Beastie, when he loses his army, he's going to be able to replenish it. Gonzo's on the front line, the knights engaging with the crossbows in the back. The Mangonel stays alive, and that's the huge difference, I think, with this failed push. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Vortix taps out. The Rus economy and the militia in particular are looking really, really strong. Hope you guys enjoy the castle game. Hopefully, see you on the next one.